Yes, my people. If you watch this video, you go understand why Niger needed to carry out that coup wey dem carry out. Just listen to this video. Just listen to wetin happen for this video. You go see the day where US announced say they want pull out their military, come up from Niamey go Agadez. Then here wetin that lady they talk about all these military facilities where they here, all these military men and all this. Here wetin they talk about and the amount where US they spend per year to maintain the military facilities within that country. Despite how many troops, both the one from Germany, the Canada, US, and France, or many other countries, where did that same Niger, but yet the country they suffer from insurgency. Listen, don't hear why they needed to carry that coup. Because all these people now, even the man waiting for the video, they are saying, waiting these people did this country they do safe. Watch the video, let me share them. They're very important.
Officials that U.S. troops will be moved, repositioned within the country, and that some number of troops will be removed. Can you speak to that? And is there any threat perceived for U.S. troops at this time?
Sure. So in terms of Niger, there's no perceived threat in terms of any threat to U.S. troops and no threat of violence on the ground. This is simply a precautionary measure. So what we're doing right now is the department is repositioning some of our personnel and some of our assets from Airbase 101 in Niamey to Airbase 201 in Agadez. But it's simply precautionary. Our force posture hasn't changed in Niger. Our position remains the same, that we hope that the situation on the ground gets resolved diplomatically, but would just reemphasize that there's no immediate threat to U.S. personnel or violence on the ground.
Okay. Is the U.S. conducting counter-terror missions out of the country at this point?
At this time, we're still really confined to the bases. We are, again, moving personnel and assets, but we're not conducting joint operations or training with the Nigerian military at this time.
As well. The country's also warned that military intervention in Niger could destabilize the entire region, which has faced a spike in attacks from Islamic militants. A Burkina Faso government spokesperson made the announcement Monday.
We
warn that any military intervention against Niger is tantamount to a declaration of war against Burkina Faso and Mali. We warn that any military intervention against Niger would entail a withdrawal of Burkina Faso and Mali from ECOWAS, as well as the adoption of self-defense measures in support of the armed forces and the people of Niger.
Niger is a former French colony which gained its independence in 1960. Over the weekend, Niger's new rulers accused France of plotting to intervene militarily. Niger is a major supplier of uranium to France and the European Union. France is planning to start evacuating French and European Union residents today. On Sunday, thousands of supporters of the new junta attempted to storm the French embassy in the capital, Niamey. Niger has also been a close ally to the United States. The U.S. has approximately 1,000 troops in Niger. Following the coup, the troops have been restricted to a U.S. military base in the northern city Agadez, where the U.S. spent over $100 million building a drone base. The Biden administration has so far refused to describe last week's event as a coup because doing so would force Washington to cut security aid to Niger. The Intercept reported last week that one of the leaders of last week's coup, Brigadier General Moussa Salou Balmou, who had been trained by the U.S. military at Fort Benning in Georgia. According to The Intercept, U.S.-trained military officers have taken part in 11 coups in West Africa since 2008, including in Burkina Faso and Mali. In Moscow, the Kremlin has described the situation in Niger as a, quote, cause for serious concern. But the head of the Russian mercenary group, Wagner, has reportedly welcomed the coup. Wagner's leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has been quoted saying, "What happened in Niger is nothing other than the struggle of the people of Niger with their colonizers," unquote. To talk more about the crisis in Niger, we're joined by Stephanie Savelle. She's co-director of the Costs of War Project at Brown University's Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs. She's an anthropologist who's researched U.S. militarism in West Africa and beyond. Professor Savelle, welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. Can you start off by just explaining how this coup took place, the involvement of the Presidential Guard, etc.?
Sure, yeah. On July 27th, the members of the Presidential Guard, so the President Mohamed Bazoum's own guard, detained the president and the spokesman for what they're calling the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland, this is the name for the junta, declared that the Nigerian president was overthrown on national television, and that General Chiani, who oversees the Presidential Guard, declared he was leading a transitional government. So the exact reasons for the coup are actually still unclear. Chiani, he talked about the need to stop the country's demise, and he was referring to the similar reasons for coups in neighboring Burkina Faso and Mali, because there's been so much insecurity, a huge rise of Islamist militant terror attacks, as you mentioned. And so he was saying that because the country is kind of spiraling into security, the military needed to step in. And so he was kind of the head of this council, and a bunch of senior military leaders stepped in to support him. What's confusing a little bit about his claim is that this region is a kind of hub for terror attacks. There have been over 1,800 in the first 6 months of the year, but only 77 deaths occurred in Niger, as opposed to out of about 4,600 in total in the region of Burkina Faso and Mali. So Niger has really managed to keep a lot of the attacks and the insecurity and the conflict to its border areas. It's been known to be a kind of bastion of stability and resilience in a region that's just been spiraling into chaos. So it is a perplexing claim on the part of General Chiani.
And could you talk to us about this rising presence of not only U.S. forces, but also other European troops in the country? Most Americans are not aware of this growing U.S. military presence in Africa.
Not at all. I was there in January, actually, and it was just shocking to me when I was in the airport how many foreigners I was seeing moving in and out of the country, which is a first for me in many years in West Africa. So over 1,000 U.S. service personnel are in Niger, but lots of other countries are also there. France, Germany, Italy, Belgium, Canada at times has provided assistance. And a lot of these Western powers are really saw Niger as a, this kind of stable democracy, and were pouring security assistance, that is funding for military and police efforts, training efforts, a lot of weapons sales as well from the U.S. And elsewhere. So they're pouring all this security assistance to kind of bolster this so-called democracy. I went to Agadez to see the U.S. installation, the air base there. So it was $100 million where the U.S. spent on building this air base. It costs about $30 million a year to maintain. And it is a massive, sophisticated installation in the Sahara Desert. And the drones there, the U.S. drones, are being used in the U.S. counterterror operations, what we call the post 9/11 wars, in the surrounding desert area. So here it's strategically located in the middle of Algeria, Libya, Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, Nigeria, Chad, that whole belt where we've seen this kind of growing unrest. The U.S. is right there conducting these, real operations. U.S. is also located at a couple of other bases in Niger in different parts of the country, with special operations forces, trainers that go in and out. So there's far more people actually than those official 1,000 troops. There's lots of people going in and out who are on short stays, and those don't even count towards the totals.
And you mentioned the coups and recent coups in Burkina Faso and Mali, but those were conducted, from what we understand, by people trained originally by the United States, officers trained by the United States. What do we know about the coup leaders in what is happening here?
So we do know that at least one of the coup leaders, General Barmou, or maybe not a general, but a colonel, he's, don't quote me on that. He was definitely trained by the U.S. military. I mean, I think we can look at this at an individual level. There are certainly arguments to be made that, U.S. training kind of empowers certain military leaders. But I think we also need to look at this as a structural issue. So what happens when the U.S. and other Western powers pour hundreds of millions of dollars into the security assistance sector? This is basically money for the military and the gendarmes, the police, that also fight the insurgency. Is that the military is really boosted at the expense of other government institutions. A recent UNDP study showed that countries that have a oversized involvement of the military in political life, and a very politicized military, and a long history of military leadership in government, which Niger and a lot of these countries do, they're far more likely to have an ongoing pattern of military coups. So there's a lot of factors at stake that make a coup more likely, but certainly the U.S. pouring all of this money and this kind of outsized reliance on the military as a tool for aid to these countries is a contributing factor.
I wanted to just go back to that, who he is, the Intercept reporting that just last month, coup leader, and as you said, Brigadier General Moussa Salou Barmou, met with the head of U.S. Army Special Operations Command, Lieutenant General Jonathan Braga, at the U.S. drone base in Niger. Also, Secretary of State Blinken was there.
You see? Some people go come now to say this video na old video and all of that. I know say na old video. Why I post them now because of what I want to talk. That man did that video, they talk say waiting those troops, those countries, those all this African region they do. The clear question with this anybody supposed to ask now be that question. Now the year say European Union to wants to send their mission to restore peace or put peace for this. The simple truth be say they want to reclaim the country so they don't lose. But if you not think I'm very well now, could happen for Gabon, could happen for Niger. Which one people talk about most? The one we have for Niger. Why? Because the one we have for Niger, that country get resources where they very vital, very important to the European Union and to America. And if you check very well, that resources, that uranium where they carry from Niger, now Russia now US they buy from. US they buy that resource, that same uranium from Russia. That's why the quarter where all this country gets with Russia, US they buy that same resources from Russia up to now. Apart from that one now. The one where they have for where they buy from Niger, check the price. Something where you too think and say Niger, this same uranium that they buy from Niger is 0.08 euro, whereas then they buy from other country, the market value for the thing now 200 euro. That is like somebody they buy something from your hand at the rate of 800 naira, whereas that thing 8,000 naira, whereas the price of that thing for markets now 200,000. 8,000 naira, whereas the price even reach 8,000, 800 naira that they buy them, 800 naira per kilogram, whereas the market value now 200,000. And they pack and like that they go since how many years they use and they give France electricity, whereas that same country that they carry the resources from, now Nigeria they give them electricity. So these people now that why they're not fit. So if anybody they tell you say this will they go later let go of all this matter, now lie you they no go grill, because if it happen. Not only say their secret go leak for that side, because the electricity that they use there, that they get are so cheap, whereas now because of the resources that they get cheap. If these people now, as people don't realize that themselves now, they don't increase the price already. I hope so now. No, they don't increase the price of that uranium to 200 euro. So now those countries now, Then they buy you, but you know, say now electricity tariff for that country now will go up. Many things for there will go up. All the commodity for that country will go up immediately because the resources where they carry the resources down boss. Now so the same thing now US too go face because US will be say they go stand like say they know they use our resources, but even heaven knows say that they use them. If you say if even they collect from France, if even they collect from any means, if even they mine, you know go know. So all this is now the way they cast like this. Now be the reason why always they scatter military base across Africa. We don't need them. May they carry and come out. We don't need all those things. And I hope other African countries, we see the house, Shell, Unilever, all those countries, I would say they will learn.